Good morning. Thanks for the opportunity to present key findings and the implications we see for broadband providers from our recent analysis of broadband usage data. We thought we'd start off with a little exciting thriller music as we go through these thrilling times. And these are extraordinary times, and they continue. The impact on our lives, our day-to-day routines, our entire society remains profound. And we're moving into likely another period of heavier isolation. How we consume data and content, generate communications, and interact with data continue to be dramatically affected. Families have not only learned to live differently as a new normal, but subscribers are flocking towards faster speeds more swiftly than ever. During this webinar, we'll discuss specific usage trends, changes in provision speeds among subscribers, differences among them in flat rate billing and usage rate billing plans, a deeper dive into the revenue implications of how power users affect providers, along with a revenue opportunity we see for those providers. Welcome. I'm Larry Siegel, and I'll be serving as your host on today's webinar. You can assume I'm wearing that suit. I'm going to be introducing our agenda, talk a bit about our role in developing this groundbreaking report, and then turn it over to our CEO and founder, Mark Trudeau, who'll take us on a deep dive into the key findings and their implications for broadband operators. And we'll have a few questions for you along the way. And speaking of questions, as we go through our key findings, if you have any questions, please submit them here on Zoom. If we don't respond during this session, we will follow up with you. So here's what we'll go over on today's webinar. A quick overview of what the OpenVault Broadband Insights Report is and how it's developed. A summary of the findings from our most recent Q3 report. Where we are as an industry in terms of growth and broadband data usage. What are power users and what's their impact for operators? And again, that low-hanging fruit opportunity that we uncovered to increase ARPU. We'll talk about trends across various provision speeds, European data usage and how that compares to North America. Something new, an average broadband household index that we've created, and we'll talk about that. And then we'll close with a quick look at OpenVault, our suite of solutions that allow us to create not just industry insights, but actionable insights for your broadband offering. And then we'll entertain any questions that you submit. OpenVault is a 10-year-old company. In fact, this is our 10th year anniversary company. We're specializing in proprietary solutions for broadband operators. We provide actionable insight and tools based on usage analytics. We've provided these solutions for over 150 operators in North America, Latin America, and Europe. We've helped operators improve annual revenue by hundreds of millions of dollars, and we do so for more operators than any other broadband solutions vendor in the world. In fact, our tools gather broadband usage data generated by our customers. And once within our platform, we create a holistic pool of data across millions of subscriber data usage records into which we execute a series of powerful analytic queries ranging from overall usage, tiered usage, plan migrations, and geographic characteristics. These then yield insights which have implications for you, for broadband providers, and for the industry. We share these insights and their implications quarterly in our OpenVault Broadband Insights Report Advisories, or OVBI, like the one we have today. So now let's get into what we found in the third quarter. And to get into that, we'd like to bring on now our OpenVault founder and CEO, Mark Trudeau.
Great, thanks, Larry, and good morning, everyone. Afternoon to those in Europe. Just to jump into the key findings here, during this COVID-19 period, we have certainly seen a surge in usage that really started once the lockdowns occurred in the second quarter. However, here in the third quarter, we've certainly seen usage plateau. So that's the good news, is that we're not seeing the same rate of growth that we saw from first quarter to second quarter. It has in fact plateaued, and we'll get into the details of that here in a bit. We're going to focus today a lot more than our previous webinars on power users and what it means for operators to deal with what really is a small percentage of, albeit growing percentage of their subscriber base that are actually causing lots of issues for operators, and it's a challenge to deal with those power users. And here you could see that we now are seeing almost 9% of subscribers consuming more than a terabyte of usage. And we've seen that number grow significantly year over year, as well as that superpower user of 2 terabytes and above. So we will provide some more statistics on just how much usage they're contributing to the overall network. Now, here's an example of that. So we're seeing that really the top 10% of subscribers are consuming nearly 40% of all the downstream traffic, and it becomes even more pronounced on the upstream side. A lot of that is driven by the fact that subscribers are moving up in speeds, and you see a pretty big increase as well in the amount of subscribers that are now provisioned for that gig service, the fastest speed that's being offered out in the marketplace. So operators really need to understand that, and that in fact they should have a strategy to improve ARPU as a result of the desire for faster speeds and really the need for more speed given the change in usage behavior. To stay on that topic, over 5% now are provisioned at a gig speed, and just to give you an order of magnitude on the kind of growth we're seeing, that's more than double what we saw last year at this time. So operators are doing a really good job of getting subscribers to upgrade to the faster speeds. There's lots of reasons for that we'll talk about, and some of the differences in particular. We always like to highlight our observations around those operators that have quotas in place and usage limits in place versus those that have unlimited usage. But regardless, we are seeing a significant increase, in fact, a pretty heavy increase even over what we saw in the second quarter. So there's a big shift to subscribers moving to those very fast gig speeds. So Larry mentioned Europe. We are seeing, just like here in the States, European usage has plateaued after pretty tremendous growth there in the second quarter. Continues to run about 2 to 3 years behind the levels that we see here in the US. And part of the reason for that is there aren't as many operators yet that have upgraded their networks to gig speeds, particularly in the cable broadband space in Europe. And as we know from previous OVBIs, there is a strong correlation between speeds and the average speed and average usage. So the higher the speed, the higher the usage. So Europe will catch up. We're confident about that, and we're going to talk about some of those trends here today as well. And then lastly, Larry mentioned something new here that we're going to be providing, and over the past couple of years, as we've been publishing the OVBI and doing these webinars, we for those of you that have listened in the past, you've noticed that we've provided a lot of metrics around average usage per household, etc. We've added some third-party data to the mix in this particular report, and what we're going to share with you is more of a holistic view of what that average household looks like. And we're doing that because we want to be able to look at that moving forward as well and look at what the trend is on just what is the average household, what are the characteristics of the average home in terms of their broadband usage, provision speed, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll get to that as well as we go through the key findings.
Thank you, Mark. And now we'd like you to sit up a little bit and participate in the first of our polls. There'll be 2 of them. And here we go. So the poll is going to be about what we're going to be viewing is which of the following areas we're about to look at is most important to you. Please go ahead and select one of them, and we will share the results with you. So is it usage growth? Is it trends in speed provisioning, impact of power users, revenue opportunity from power users, or is it the new broadband household index? I see the voting is coming in. We will not be doing any recounts. This is a straightforward voting. I should not get into that discussion. Okay, just give it another 15 seconds or so, and then we'll go ahead and share the results. If you haven't voted yet, please vote now. Okay, thank you very much. So we had a lot of participation here, and let me share with you. Interest across the board for all these things, but in particular, folks are interested in the revenue opportunity from power users. That makes sense. So let's get into it. As you can see, as you will see rather, continued growth among power users who consume 1 terabyte or more of data. There's a steady migration of subscribers to faster speeds, and the revenue implications for broadband providers are among the most notable developments in our report. And that's what you're interested in most, and what the impact is and the revenue opportunity. So now here's Mark to get back into it.
Thank you, Larry. So we'll dive into some of the details of what we talked about up front. And as Larry mentioned, we will certainly talk about the revenue opportunities that operators have here. But as you could see, the weighted average usage per household is coming in at 384 gigabytes here in the third quarter. And that is slightly above what we saw in the second quarter. So again, usage has plateaued a bit. However, when you look back a year ago, we're looking at a 40% increase in usage. Now, to add to that, most operators are growing in subscribers as well. So the 40% increase in average household usage actually means that the overall impacts to the network because of subscriber growth at the same time, it's kind of a double whammy. So operators are getting hit with both increase per household and more households having their service. So the impacts on the network, most networks that we track and help operators with are showing over 50% more data than last year in totality that we saw. So huge usage growth year over year. Now, we always, again, share observations on those operators that have unlimited plans in place versus those that have usage quotas. And historically, we have seen a difference in usage. This is just a picture of average usage showing a 4% less usage on those operators that have usage quotas and usage-based billing in place versus those that do not. 4% might not seem like a huge amount, but I'm sure any network engineers here on the webinar would disagree that 4% actually can have a pretty substantial impact on the network, particularly based on when that usage is coming in. And whether it's coming in during a peak usage time. As far as median usage goes, this is another metric that we always track. And what we want to see here is it just the top users dragging up the average each time we look at this data, or is it the entire subscriber base that's using more? And in fact, that is the case. We are seeing median usage growing at a faster rate than average usage. Again, an indication that really it's the entire subscriber base that continues to move up in terms of their usage profile.
Thank you, Mark. Now we'll get into the power users or subscribers who consume 1 terabyte or more of data per month. And this category has seen tremendous growth in the past few quarters, with roughly 10% of all subscribers now falling into this category. It's important for network operators to understand the impact these power users have and the opportunities they present. And back to Mark now for a dive into this.
Yeah, so I'll focus here on the middle row, if I could. This is the weighted average now of what we're seeing in these different usage categories across the top. So we're now seeing 1% of subscribers using more than 2 terabytes, 8.8% of subscribers using over a terabyte, and nearly 50% of subscribers using over 250 gigabytes, which used to be our definition of a power user. Obviously, we don't use that anymore, but these power users are actually experiencing higher year-over-year growth than any other category. 110% increase since last year at this time in terms of the percentage of users consuming over a terabyte of data. 172% increase in terms of the number of users over 2 terabytes. So huge increase, huge impacts to operator networks, and I will talk about that in a little more detail here in a bit. Now, again, to stay on the theme of the unlimited flat rate billing versus usage-based billing, this is where we really start to see a difference in the usage behavior of operators that have quotas in place versus those that have unlimited. And again, focus on that real super power user. We're seeing that those operators that have unlimited plans have 34% higher rate of subscribers with over 2 terabytes of usage than those operators that have usage quotas in place. What we have seen from operators that have quotas in place, subscribers do in fact change their behavior. They curtail their usage. They don't want to get hit with overage fees, et cetera. So across the board, we see fewer subscribers in those super power user categories than we do in the unlimited situations. So again, power users, how much do they actually contribute? So we talked about a little bit about this up front. The top 10% of subscribers are actually consuming nearly 40% of all the downstream traffic, with the top 1% actually consuming 7% of total downstream traffic. So you have a very, very small percentage of subscribers, actually in many cases causing congestion on networks. In a cable DOCSIS world, you could have one subscriber that's sharing a node with 300 other subscribers, causing major congestion, where those other 300 subscribers are actually getting very poor service simply because of one subscriber. So it's really important to be able to identify who these subscribers are. And by the way, that one subscriber could cause the operator to spend $15,000 or $20,000 splitting a node. And that one subscriber could be paying $50 a month in fees to the operator. So some of these subscribers are very, very costly to operators. And it's important to be able to look at metrics like this to understand that if you can identify who they are, oftentimes you could simply reach out to them and have them change their behavior. Most of them are in violation, if not of a quota that you have in place, some acceptable use policy that they've all, that they had to agree to when they signed on their service. So again, this is a key stat. And Larry, I think you have another one here, a couple more. So again, this becomes even more pronounced in an upstream situation. We have seen oftentimes 1 or 2 subscribers that are chewing up 80 to 90% of the available bandwidth during a particular hour on the upstream side. And for cable broadband providers, upstream is more of a challenge from a capacity perspective. So it's even more important with upstream to really be able to identify who those subscribers are. When you're seeing the top 1% accounting for nearly 20% of upstream traffic, you could see the importance of understanding who they are and having some remedy in place to deal with that situation. Now, why is this happening too? And again, back to the point about the higher the speed, the higher the usage. While gigabit subscribers are making up about 5.6% of the total now, they're consuming 12% of downstream and 13% of upstream bandwidth overall. So you've got, again, roughly 5% of your subscriber base accounting for 12 or 13% of total usage. So it's great that operators are going out there, they're selling the gig speeds, et cetera, but they also have to understand the implications of that and just how much usage that's driving, which can have an impact, particularly in a cable broadband shared network. Now, these also provide revenue opportunities for operators, right? So, the power users aren't all on the gig service plans, and that's become very clear that, many subscribers have been provisioned on speeds when they first signed up for service at much, much lower than gig service, oftentimes 20 megabits per second, 30, 50 megabits per second, or even less, actually, in many cases. And those subscribers that are on those speeds and fall into those high usage categories not only are they giving you, as operators, not much revenue for the amount of bandwidth that they're chewing up, but there's clearly upgrade opportunities and will be happier customers by moving to faster speeds, right? We've talked ad nauseum about how usage behavior has changed. Everybody here that's listening in on this webinar knows that, behavior has changed dramatically over these past few months. Many subscribers simply don't have the speeds that they need. And so there's an opportunity both to upgrade them, drive more revenue, but more importantly, improve customer satisfaction in their experience. And that is something that, you know, we try to help our operators understand and identify who they are. You know, looking at their history, how has usage changed? Have they cut the cord? Are they now not a bundled subscriber anymore, where they've actually given up video and it's all broadband? They've signed up for multiple streaming services. When you have multiple streams going on at the same time in a high def or 4K environment, it causes the need for more bandwidth. So all of these are revenue opportunities from our perspective. So now, you know, again, when operators have usage-based billing in place, what they are seeing, okay, is that subscribers are self-selecting to move up to speeds they actually need. So the subscriber's saying, look, you know, I don't want to get hit with overage fees, et cetera. I'm going to upgrade my service, which oftentimes comes with a higher usage quota. So you can see from this stat just what that means for operators. With those that have quotas, usage-based billing, subscribers, 80% of the top subscribers actually have upgraded to 200 megabits or higher, but only 62% of the unlimited operator subscribers have done the same. So over time, when you see these statistics, it shows you just how much having quotas in place can actually help the subscriber. And a lot of people have a lot of things to say about usage quotas, et cetera, but what we have seen time and time again is that over time, subscribers end up being happier because they're getting the speeds they need and they self-selected due to the quotas. So it actually serves to provide better net promoter scores, higher customer satisfaction. Another stat here among the top 1%, you know, 49% more of the flat rate or unlimited subscribers actually take the lower cost, lower ARPU broadband tiers. And in this day and age, very few subscribers really are going to get by with lower cost, lower amount of bandwidth, you know, tiers. They just don't. Subscribers across the board need faster and faster speeds to deal with the change in usage behavior. Now, it's not just all about revenue, right? And we talked about the fact that, you know, subscribers' usage behavior has changed. So when you turn into one of those power users, you actually need faster speeds. So one of the things we really try to help identify for our customers in the operator environment is, again, who are those subscribers that are considered power users that are actually provisioned at low speeds? They are the same, typically a high correlation of those subscribers are the same ones calling into customer care, saying my internet's slow, et cetera, et cetera. Trucks are being rolled, field techs are having to go into homes unnecessarily, because the real issue is those subscribers simply need faster speeds. So by upgrading them, it's not just about ARPU, you're actually going to give them the service they need, and you're going to keep your field techs out of harm's way. So a lot of focus should be placed in those areas.
Thank you, Mark. Let's take a break now and think about what we just reviewed and what we just learned. There is immediate low-hanging fruit for broadband providers who wish to move toward UBB if they're ready. Are you ready? And what do you think about others? So let's take a poll. We'll share the results and ask you that question. So here comes poll number 2. Based on what you learned from this quarterly advisory, how likely are you to either consider or, in fact, implement usage-based billing as a means to increase ARPU among targeted subscribers and improve satisfaction? Please vote now. Crack your knuckles and start pressing buttons. We have some good activity here, interesting results. I can't wait to share it with you. We have, let's see, 57% of attendees have voted. So there is some room for additional voting if you care to vote. Polls will close in 5 seconds. And that's about 5 seconds. So let's see what we've learned. Somewhat likely, by far, is the category. So among you and among your peers in the attendees here has a somewhat likely answer in terms of pursuing usage-based billing. Well, now let's talk about speed and speed provisioning. And to get into that, bring back Mark.
Yeah, so this is just a picture here of the breakdown across these different speed tiers that you see. And we'll dive into this here in the next couple slides in a little more detail. In particular, again, back to the 1 gig service, we talked about the fact that we've seen a 124% increase over last year at this time, a 14% increase over just the second quarter. Again, you know, the operators that have the usage-based billing quotas in place have about 25% more subscribers that have opted and upgraded to that gig service. And that's for a couple of reasons. In some cases, operators that have quotas in place, when subscribers move up to the gig service, in fact, they have either a very, very high quota in place or unlimited. So it provides a lot of incentive for subscribers to move up to those gig services when you have quotas in place. So that's a big reason why we see that typically. Now, what really surprised us, I think, this particular OVBI in this quarter was we also saw an increase in the percentage of subscribers provisioned at a very low 10 meg per second or lower speed tier. And our theory there is, obviously, we've seen a lot of subscriber growth over these past 6 months, really a tremendous amount of subscriber growth. And we attribute this to the economy. A lot of people, unfortunately, being out of work, don't have the dollars to spend on bandwidth as much as they would like. So they subscribe to service at a very low cost, low tier. Now, over time, undoubtedly, these same subscribers will need faster speeds. They will need to graduate up to those faster speeds based on usage behavior continuing to change. So these are all ultimately opportunities for operators to provide a better service by getting these subscribers to upgrade as well. Again, as we've seen the last few OVBIs, the tier that's the most popular is that 100 to 200 megabits per second tier. And when we get to the average household, we'll show you specifically what the overall average speed is that subscribers that we track have. But this is the most popular range of speeds that we see out there as far as what subscribers and households have going into their home. Now, to shift gears to North America versus Europe, we are seeing, as you can see, nearly double the amount of usage here in North America that we see in Europe, with median usage about 50% higher than we see, again, in Europe. You're also seeing growth, though, albeit less growth than we've seen in North America. You're still seeing growth, a 26% increase in the average household usage in Europe, and 36% increase in the median usage, which again is back to that point. It's the entire subscriber base. So lots of lessons can be learned over what we've seen happen in North America. And as I stated earlier, Europe is 2 to 3 years behind. So we have a very clear picture of where Europe is going as they upgrade their networks and provide those faster speeds. We really know exactly what to expect in terms of household usage behavior in Europe. So we've mentioned this now a couple times, and this is again a picture now trying to be somewhat holistic in nature about, let's just look at the broadband, really the picture of a household these days in North America. So we're looking at 384 gigabytes of average usage in the third quarter. And that's broken down between 359 gigabytes of downstream and 25 gigabytes of upstream. And to stay on that for a second, upstream usage has continued to grow. Even though I've talked a few times about how usage has plateaued, the one type of usage that has continued to grow is in fact upstream. And I think we all can understand why, but certainly video calling and the students going back to school, a lot of online learning going on. Starting in September, October, we're now seeing the ramifications of that as upstream has continued to grow, and we don't see that really slowing down. Now, the average speed that we're seeing, and we do a lot with cable broadband providers, so I'll give you that caveat, but we're seeing about 170 megabits per second downstream and about 13 megabits per second on the upstream side. And again, we see more capacity limitations on upstream that operators are challenged with dealing with, especially with the growth in upstream usage. But this is across millions of subscribers what we're seeing here in the States. Now, I mentioned that we've also pulled in some third-party data, and we're going to continue to try to do that to round out the picture, right? It's not just about usage, consumption, and speed. What's driving that? And the two main drivers are, in fact, subscribers have multiple streaming services, from Netflix to Hulu to Amazon Prime, et cetera, et cetera. The average household now has 4 streaming services, and they have over 10 devices now connected to the internet. And we all know Internet of Things. We all know that more and more devices are connected. The holidays, there's always a big bump in devices connected to the networks. And we also have to remember that a lot of these devices now are serving up streaming video at a higher quality. So that chews up more data. So all of these things work together to continue to drive growth on these networks. But this is a picture of really a holistic picture of broadband in the average household in North America. And we are going to continue to try to track this in future OVBI reports moving forward, so we can keep an eye on these trends. Okay, Larry.
Thank you, Mark. Just wanted to go over some conclusions here. As you can see from what we've talked about, that the massive surge of bandwidth usage created by the COVID-19 pandemic has settled in a bit, with relatively flat growth across all usage categories, with usage trends having settled on a new normal that still exceeds pre-pandemic levels. In fact, a question came in about this that we'll cover in just a few moments. This experience has given broadband operators greater visibility of the impact of higher usage trends, so they can be better prepared for future growth. And broadband operators can now focus on how to manage the network and how to maximize ARPU in the face of this new normal. Moving higher usage subscribers into higher ARPU packages should be an important objective, and we talked about that a bit throughout, with UBB in particular. We estimate 30% of total subscribers are candidates for higher speed tiers and representing ARPU growth opportunities. And tools, visibility, analytics, insights, and industry best practices, all of that enable you to drive incremental revenue, improve network performance, and subscriber satisfaction. Which kind of brings us into our closing before we get to the Q&A, and I'll turn it back over to Mark.
Thanks, Larry. So, as Larry stated up front, we're actually providing the solution across multiple types of broadband networks, albeit again, the caveat that a good chunk of the data here has been collected over the years from cable broadband providers. But all of our solutions are focused on really helping operators optimize their networks and drive revenue. And I think we have a picture of a few of those solution groups and solution packages here. We provide a lot of packages. Everything that we do is cloud-based, really helping operators diagnose issues, provide remote care as opposed to having to roll trucks out into the field, et cetera, network management, understanding capacity, which subscribers might be causing congestion issues, We talked a lot about revenue generation and usage-based billing, and operators that are uncomfortable with usage-based billing, that's fine. There are still revenue generation opportunities that actually, as I stated, have multiple benefits besides just higher ARPU. Reducing phone calls and reducing truck rolls because subscribers now have a service, a speed tier that they actually need. And then all kinds of subscriber engagement solutions as well that help notify subscribers of high usage levels, give them usage meters to understand the level of usage they have, et cetera. So all of these are available. And we want to mention that it's the use of these solutions over the years that have allowed us to collect all this data, aggregate it, and present it to you all in the form of these webinars in the OVBI. One last thing here from me, I think, is all of these end up being used across the organization. The data becomes really the trusted source within an organization. It's a data set and a set of analytics that all functional groups can use. So you're all working from the same data set. And oftentimes that's difficult in operator environments where data is siloed, systems are hard to get access to, et cetera. We end up with our solution suite working across multiple functional areas of every operator that we deal with.
Thank you, Mark. I understand you've cleared your calendar for the next few minutes to answer some Q&A. Thank you. Before we get to that, and we've had some questions coming in, wanted to remind you to visit our site if you found this data of interest and of value and you want to have it near and dear to you. Go to our website and you could download the PDF version of where all the stats are coming from, our OVBI report itself. So we encourage you to go to our website if you haven't yet and downloaded the report. And if you're interested, please contact us to set up how this specifically affects you in your network and in your business. One other additional announcement before we get to Q&A. For those of you who have been on our site, we have something called the Broadband Tracker, which is a pretty much near real-time capture of data usage trends that are happening of the moment. And we have something called Tracker Tuesday, where we feature different things. And we're going to be doing a deep dive into Thanksgiving usage here in the States for increases on Tracker Tuesday. That'll be December 1st. You may know that Zoom is offering free gatherings with friends and family and lifting time limits. So usage, it may be very interesting to see what happens as we move through Thanksgiving. So we encourage you to come back to our site on December 1st for Tracker Tuesday to see what those results look like. So now we'll get to a few of the questions. Question one, you're obviously talking a lot about the value of UBB. What are the steps a provider would go through to deploy this in a way to capture the low-hanging fruit you mentioned?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's not as complicated as many operators think. It all starts with the data, of course, and understanding the usage behavior at a very, very granular level of your subscribers. It's a matter of aggregating that data usage information with information from the operator's billing or CRM system to understand what package plan, what speed tier subscribers are actually on. And then helping operators model out various quotas, et cetera, and really model out the plans that they want to put forward. Most operators, really all operators, frankly, aren't designing UBB, usage-based billing quotas, to impact that many subscribers. It's really about the top 1 or 2% of subscribers typically, because those are the same subscribers either causing issues on the network or that would be better served by moving up to higher speed tiers. So there's a lot of misnomers about usage-based billing, but I could tell you from all of our experience over the years, subscribers end up being much, much happier in markets that offer plans that have quotas. They right-size themselves to the speed tiers that they need. And then it's a matter, once we've modeled that out for operators, we have things like the subscriber usage meter, giving access to that. So subscribers, once it's announced, can see that they fall way, way below the quotas that have been established. If there are fees that end up getting charged at the end of the month, we as OpenVault do all of that rating, et cetera, and then feed that information into the operator's billing system to bill properly for it. But it is not nearly as complicated as many would make it out to be. It's actually a very straightforward process. There's typically more effort involved in just deciding how you want to communicate with subscribers about it, what your messaging is going to be, et cetera, than any sort of challenge from a technical deployment standpoint.
Thank you, Mark. Second question. There's now a second or third COVID wave taking place with infected numbers way higher than last spring. Have we maxed out our growth, or will another lockdown result in another surge?
Great question. I would say all bets are off. We experienced something that we never thought we would, right? And it's not just in the broadband space, but obviously just all of us individually have experienced a very challenging number of months here. And on the broadband networks themselves, nobody could have anticipated the kind of growth and the strain that was going to be placed on these networks. And I would go so far as to say, usage will never return to pre-pandemic levels, and more lockdowns, which we're seeing announcements every single day, more restrictions, et cetera, will only serve to continue to drive usage higher. And as I stated when I showed the household stuff, we've got the holidays coming up here, and there will be an influx of new devices, no doubt, coming into these homes. You're seeing households now that are cutting the cord. That trend hasn't changed either. You're seeing higher quality streaming services being delivered in the home, and that again, 4K, 8K TVs, et cetera, are driving more usage. So I say all bets are off, but if I were a betting person, I would certainly bet on continued growth, particularly based on the trends that we're seeing with this pandemic.
Thank you. Here's a question talking about higher tier plans. How does moving customers to higher tier plans help lessen the strain on the network?
How does moving subtract? Well, it's a lot of the strain on the network, the things that are interpreted as strain on the network are actually strain of the pipe going into the house. And again, because usage behaviors changed, subscribers might have a small pipe going into their house in terms of the bandwidth that's available. And those are the folks that are calling into customer care, and it might seem like the network itself is congested. I can tell you, working with so many operators are trying very, very hard to stay ahead of the growth on their networks. We're seeing more congestion at the individual subscriber level, actually, than we are at the overall operator network level. And so, what might appear as network congestion is actually congestion or the need for more bandwidth going into the house. So upgrading subscribers, giving them the bandwidth that they need, operators on the cable broadband side continuing to split nodes, et cetera, expand capacity wherever possible. All of these things can help ease the strain both in the house and in the network as a whole.
Thank you, Mark. And one last question. And folks, if you have any other questions, now's the time to send it. But here is the last question we have. How fast and how realistic is it that 2 terabyte power users will grow into a significant user category?
Well, I mentioned I'm not a betting person, but in that case, there's another example of a situation where I'm highly, highly confident that we're going to see the percentage of subscribers over 2 terabytes grow dramatically here over the next year. When we started this business, the 250 gigabyte level 10 years ago, we had about 0.5% of subscribers at that level. And now that those subscribers account for 50% of all customers now are using in the 250 gigabyte and above range. Just a couple short years ago, we started tracking a terabyte user, and they were also at around 1.5 to 1% of overall subscribers achieved a terabyte of usage, consumed a terabyte of usage. Now that number is approaching 10%. And we're seeing those over 2 terabytes now at just over 1% already. So I would not be surprised at all within 2 to 3 years to see that number of subscribers over 2 terabytes in that 5 to 10% range. I think it's highly likely.
Okay, bets are down. Thank you, Mark. Thank you for that, and thank you. That wraps up our time here. We appreciate the opportunity to present our key findings and the implications we see for broadband service providers from our recent analysis of last quarter's broadband data usage. Stay tuned for Q4. It should be interesting, and we look forward to presenting our results and insights and opportunities to you at the conclusion of Q4. Thanks again for attending. Again, don't forget to download the PDF of the report itself and watch for a replay of this that you can share with your friends and colleagues. Take care, everybody.